My name is Brenda Watson, and I'm 29 years old. I can tell you the exact moment something inside me quietly, decisively broke, not with a scream, not with a dramatic meltdown, but with a kind of tired acceptance that felt heavier than any heartbreak I'd ever known. It happened on a Thursday night, a normal Thursday, the kind where nothing big is supposed to happen until it does. I'd been living with my boyfriend Landon Pierce for nearly 2 years. On paper, we looked balanced. I paid most of the rent, he covered utilities and groceries. It seemed fair. Or maybe it only looked fair because I had spent years convincing myself that imbalance was normal, as long as the relationship was passionate. Landon loved passion, or rather he loved chaos disguised as passion. He was the kind of man who believed real love required volatility. If we weren't fighting, something must be wrong. If we weren't on the edge, he insisted we were going cold. He thrived on the emotional roller coaster, and for too long I'd strap myself in beside him, telling myself that turbulence meant connection. Tonight's turbulence started over, God help me, his best friend's upcoming gender reveal party. He burst into the living room, waving a text from his friend, bright-eyed like a child on Christmas morning. Bren, it's this weekend, you remember, right? I glanced up from my laptop with what I thought was a reasonable amount of interest. I smiled. I nodded. I even said, "Oh, that's nice." Apparently that wasn't enough. Landon's face twisted the way it always did when he sensed an opportunity to escalate. "You don't care," he snapped. "You never care about things that matter to me." I blinked slow, cautious. We'd danced this dance before. "It's a gender reveal, Landon," I said softly. "I mean, I'm happy for them. I just don't know what else you want me to say." "Oh my God," he exploded. "There it is, the bare minimum. You can't even pretend to be excited for 1 second." I closed my laptop not to engage, just so he'd stop yelling over the keyboard clicks. "I didn't realize enthusiasm was mandatory," I murmured. "Bad move." His voice jumped an octave. "It's always like this with you. I give, and you don't put anything back into us. You don't show emotion. You don't try. Do you even love me anymore, Brenda?" The leap from gender reveal to questioning my entire capacity for love was classic Landon. He didn't argue to solve anything. He argued to ignite something. Usually I played my part. I'd apologize, I'd soften, I'd rebuild the emotional scaffolding he tore down whenever he got bored or insecure. But tonight, something in me simply didn't have the strength. I leaned back on the couch, my head throbbing from a migraine that had been creeping in since the afternoon. "I'm tired, Landon," I said quietly. "Can we talk about this tomorrow?" He stepped in front of the TV, blocking the screen with theatrical precision. His hands were on his hips. His foot was tapping. He wanted a reaction. He needed the fire. "No," he shouted. "We're talking now. You're not going to brush me off again." Brush him off. My silence wasn't dismissal. It was exhaustion, pure bone-deep exhaustion. "I'm listening," I said. "I just don't think not squealing over pink or blue confetti makes me a monster." That was the spark. "Get out," he said, suddenly pointing at the door like a disappointed father scolding a child. "If you're going to be such an emotional black hole, then get out of my space." My space. My money paid for that space. But that didn't even register in the moment. What registered was the casual cruelty in his voice. "Landon," I began. "No," he snapped. "I'm serious. Get out, Brenda. I don't want you here tonight." He expected me to beg, to soothe, to fold like every other time. Instead, something inside me clicked. Not a spark, a switch, a quiet final shift. "Okay," I said. His eyebrows shot up so fast I almost laughed. He stood frozen, shocked that the script suddenly wasn't following the usual lines. I stood up, walked to the bedroom, pulled out my duffel bag, folded my clothes slowly, deliberately. While behind me, Landon kept yelling things he didn't really mean, things meant to bait, to hook, to keep the scene alive. "Oh, so now you're running away. You're unbelievable. You never fight for anything. You're proving my point. You don't care." But I wasn't running, and for the first time in years, I realized I wasn't trapped either. I packed what I needed. Laptop, toiletries, passport, the spare key to my car, the documents from the filing cabinet because something told me I might need them. I walked back out to the living room. Landon stood there with his arms crossed, smirking like he still believed this was foreplay. "Where are you going to go?" he scoffed. "You can't even make a decision without me." "You told me to leave," I said calmly, slipping on my shoes. "So I'm leaving." I opened the door, and behind me, I heard his voice crack just slightly. "Brenda, wait, you're not actually—" But I was. And his confusion, that stunned little choke of disbelief, was the clearest proof that he never thought I had the courage to choose myself. He followed me to the doorway, his voice rising with panic he couldn't hide anymore. If you walk out that door, don't think you're coming back tonight. I wasn't planning on it, I said quietly. The hallway light hummed softly. For the first time in a long time, the world around me felt still. As the door closed behind me, I heard his voice through the wood, high frantic disbelieving. Brenda, I can't believe you actually left. I didn't answer. I took the elevator down to my car, drove to a small roadside hotel that smelled like bleach and old wallpaper, checked into a room dimly lit by a flickering lamp, and finally turned my phone to Do Not Disturb for everyone except my parents and my boss. 3 hours later, I checked the camera feed from the doorbell I'd installed months ago. At 9:45 p.m., 20 minutes after I left, a car pulled up, a woman stepped out. Serena, Landon's ex. The same ex he'd sworn was barely a friend. He opened the door for her. She walked in wearing my sweatshirt. He handed her a drink before the door even closed. My heart didn't break. It hardened. The fight hadn't been about enthusiasm. It hadn't even been a fight. It was a setup. He wanted me gone. I sat on the hotel bed looking at the lease documents in my hand. Tomorrow, I thought I'd start the eviction of my life. The next morning, the hotel room smelled like stale air and lavender cleaning spray, a strangely peaceful contrast to the chaos I'd left behind. I woke up expecting panic grief, maybe some dramatic crying into a pillow. But all I felt was clarity, the kind that only comes after years of noise finally stopping. I checked my phone. 14 missed calls from Landon. 6 from his mom. 3 from an unknown number, probably Serena, though she had never once dared contact me directly before. And 1 preview text from him that read, "Stop being dramatic, just come home." Home. I actually laughed. I sat up, took a breath, and opened my messages. That's when the real avalanche hit. Landon, 11:43 p.m. Brenda, answer your phone. This isn't funny. 11:48 p.m. Serena only came over because I was upset you left. Stop overreacting. Overreacting. Classic. 12:16 a.m. If you don't come back, I'm assuming you're abandoning the relationship. As if the relationship hadn't flatlined the moment he invited his ex over before my car had even reached the freeway. By 7 a.m., the tone had shifted to entitlement. Landon, 7:02 a.m. Where are you? I need the car to get to my haircut appointment. You need the car, as if we hadn't agreed the car was mine and mine alone. As if he wasn't the one who demanded I leave. Then 10 minutes later, Landon, 7:12 a.m. You took the spare key. Seriously. That's petty, Brenda. I ignored him. By 9:30 a.m., his mood had evolved again, this time to indignation. 9:30 a.m. The internet is down. Fix it. That one nearly made me choke on my complimentary hotel breakfast. The internet wasn't down. I'd simply changed the password from my phone the night before. A small victory, a symbolic one. Because for once, his comfort wasn't my responsibility. A little past 10, I took a deep breath and finally texted him back. Me, I'm not coming back. We're done. I saw Serena arrive 20 minutes after I left. Don't bother lying. You have 30 days to move out. I'll send formal notice. His response came within 6 seconds. Landon, LMAO. You can't kick me out of my own home. Me, the lease is in my name. You are listed as an occupant. It's not your home. Landon, Serena came over as a friend. You're being paranoid and honestly abusive. The projection was almost impressive. Landon, come home. Apologize. We can move past this. I stared at the message, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel manipulated. I felt done. I spent the rest of the morning driving to my friend Mia Patel's house. Mia, my closest friend since college, now a corporate attorney who knew just enough landlord-tenant law to make me feel equipped and dangerous. She met me at the door holding a steaming mug of chai and a raised eyebrow. You look like someone who just escaped a cult, she said. Close enough, I muttered, stepping inside. We sat on her patio as I recounted everything. The fight, the leaving the camera footage, Serena's entrance like she was auditioning for a reality show. Mia listened quietly, her lawyer brain working behind her eyes. Okay, she finally said. You're the leaseholder. That's good, but you need to protect your property. And if he's already escalating, we get ahead of this. I sighed. He won't let me back in without drama. Oh, I'm counting on drama, she replied, but you're bringing the police. 3 hours later, I found myself in front of my own apartment door with 2 uniformed officers, all because my boyfriend had sent a stream of messages threatening to destroy everything I left behind. The officers knocked, announced themselves, and told him to step aside so I could retrieve my belongings. The door opened to a scene that felt like a punch. The living room was dim, cluttered, smelling like stale beer and burnt incense. Landon's favorite vibe-setting habit I had begged him to stop doing indoors. And then I saw her. Serena, wearing my oversized hoodie, drinking from my mug, her legs tucked comfortably under her on the couch like she lived there. She froze when the officers stepped inside. Landon scrambled up from the kitchen stool, his face twisting from indignation to panic. "What is this, Brenda? You called the cops on me? Seriously?" "I'm just here to get my things," I said coldly, "and to give you this." I handed him the envelope with the official 30-day notice to vacate. He read the first line before his face contorted. "You're insane. You can't do this. I'm not leaving." One of the officers spoke calmly. "Sir, legally, she can issue this. Let's keep this civil." "Civil," Serena snapped. She abandoned him. I turned to her, expression flat. "I left after he told me to leave, and after he invited you over before I'd even reached the freeway." Her face flushed a deep, guilty red. I packed my equipment, my laptop, my camera, gear, the documents from the office drawer, my jewelry, my clothes, the expensive kitchen appliances I had bought. Every minute, Landon hurled another insult, another guilt trip, another desperate attempt to regain footing. "You're pathetic. You won't make it on your own. You're nothing without me. You're ruining our lives. You're overreacting to a friend visiting." The more he talked, the more hollow he sounded. Finally, he shouted, "I'm not moving out. I'll squat if I have to." I zipped my duffel bag and met his glare evenly. "We'll see." As I carried my things to my car, the landlord, Mr. Hollister, happened to walk by. He frowned. "Brenda, I got 2 noise complaints last night, and someone said there was a strong weed smell coming from your unit." "I was at a hotel," I said quickly. "I have proof." He nodded. "I believe you. But the lease says no smoking and no unauthorized guests. If I get one more violation, I'll have to evict the leaseholder." Meaning me, which meant Landon's behavior could ruin my record while he walked away untouched. "Unless—" "Mr. Hollister," I said slowly, "what if I surrendered the apartment early?" He paused. "You mean break the lease?" I nodded. He considered it, then said something that shifted the entire playing field. "If you terminate the lease, his right to occupy ends immediately. Anyone remaining becomes a trespasser. A clean slate, a reset button, a way to remove him for good. Give me 24 hours, I told him. I'll have an answer." As he walked away, my phone buzzed again. A new Instagram post. From Serena. She and Landon clinking wine glasses in my kitchen. Caption: "Real love stays when things get hard. New beginnings. Toxic free." My hands went cold, then steady. I knew exactly what I was doing in the morning. I was ending the lease and beginning my freedom. By the time I woke up the next morning, I had already made my decision. It wasn't even dramatic. There was no tears on the pillow moment, no staring at the ceiling, wondering what went wrong. It was simple, clean. I was done. Done protecting him. Done rationalizing his chaos. Done letting his emotional storms decide the weather inside my home. So at 8:17 a.m., I called my landlord, Mr. Hollister. "Brenda," he said, answering on the second ring, "you thought about it." "Yes," I said, "I'm breaking the lease." There was a small pause, then the sound of papers shuffling. "I'll prepare the termination agreement. The break fee is 2 months' rent." I already knew that. I already knew it would gut a chunk of my savings. Freedom often costs more than you expect. "Send it," I said. And just like that, the apartment I had worked 3 jobs to afford the place I thought would be the backdrop of my adult life was no longer ours. No longer his. And finally, no longer mine either. I didn't text Landon right away. Not out of fear, out of strategy. Because men like Landon didn't collapse when you left. They collapsed when the consequences finally caught up. And the first consequence arrived at 10:42 a.m. My phone buzzed with a Bank of America fraud alert. Attempted charge $450. Merchant Bliss and Bone Hair Lounge. Status declined. I nearly spit out my tea. He tried to use the emergency credit card I kept in a kitchen drawer, the one explicitly labeled in thick Sharpie for home emergencies only. Apparently, a luxury balayage counted as an emergency to him. 5 minutes later, a text came in. Landon, 10:48 a.m. Why is the card not working? I'm at the counter. This is embarrassing. A rare side effect of entitlement. Humiliation hits harder when the audience isn't applauding. Me. That card is for emergencies. Hair dye isn't an emergency. Use your own money. Landon. It's $450. My freelance check is pending. You always pay for this kind of stuff. Always, always, always. Such a small word, such a heavy chain. Me. We're not together. I don't pay for your life anymore. Ask Serena. It took exactly 8 seconds for the explosion. Landon, 10:56 a.m. Wow. So now you're being vindictive. This is financial abuse, Brenda. I'm screenshotting everything. I'm telling everyone how controlling you are. Bet your boss will love hearing how you abandoned me. He had always relied on my calm to cushion his chaos. He had no idea what to do when nothing bounced back. Mia, sitting across from me on her patio, raised an eyebrow. He's spiraling. No, I corrected quietly. He's just finally hitting a wall that doesn't move. By noon, the spiral deepened. I received a voicemail from his mother, Donna, who embodied every trait that made Landon the way he was. Her tone was sharp enough to slice glass. Brenda, I heard what you're doing, and I have to say you should be ashamed. A woman supports her man. A woman forgives. A woman doesn't weaponize housing to punish someone going through a difficult emotional period. I almost laughed. Forgive him for emotionally detonating the household. Support him after he invited his ex over before the door even closed behind me. But Donna wasn't finished. You need to come home, apologize, and stop this nonsense. Landon told me you're making a huge mistake. Don't throw away a good man because you can't handle passion. Passion. Such an elegant word for instability. I deleted the voicemail. At 1:15 p.m., I sent Landon the text that detonated his reality. Me. I terminated the lease. I paid the break fee. The unit returns to the landlord in 7 days. You need to move out immediately. The silence lasted exactly 19 minutes. Then, Landon 1:34 p.m. You what? 1:35 p.m. You can't do that. I live here. 1:36 p.m. I have rights, Brenda. I looked it up. Tenants at will get 30 days. He had forgotten the key legal detail. He wasn't the tenant, I was. Me. When the lease ends, your right to occupy ends. Anyone who stays becomes a trespasser. Landon. This is illegal. My mom spoke to a lawyer. You're screwed. Me. Your mom's divorce lawyer from 1998 doesn't count. The typing bubble appeared, disappeared, appeared again, stopped. Then came the first sign of real fear. Landon, 1:42 p.m. Brenda, can we just talk? Please, you're blowing this out of proportion. I didn't reply, but the audacity wasn't done. At 3:08 p.m., I received an email from Amazon order confirmation Sony 65 OLED TV $1, $800 shipping to my apartment. He'd used my stored credit card, the one still linked to the smart TV I left behind. That was the mistake I had been waiting for. I canceled the order in seconds. Then I called the non-emergency police line. Hi, I'd like to file a report for attempted identity theft and credit card fraud. The woman on the phone asked for details. I provided screenshots, timestamps, and the IP address Amazon sent me. I didn't press charges, not yet. I just wanted the report number. And once I had it, I texted Landon. Me. Nice try ordering this TV. Police report number 24, 11732. Attempted credit card fraud is a felony. Move out by Sunday or I turn it over to the detective. The message stayed unread for almost 3 hours. Then suddenly a new text came in from an unexpected number. Serena, 6:24 p.m. Brenda, can we talk? Please don't file anything. Landon's freaking out. The irony nearly knocked me over. Serena, the woman who strolled into my home wearing my clothes, drinking from my mugs, smirking like she won, was now begging for my mercy. Me. This is between him and the law. Not my problem. She typed for a while. Stopped. Typed again. Stopped. Then nothing. That night I sat alone in my hotel room lights, dim the soft hum of the air conditioner filling the silence. This should have been the moment I fell apart. The moment the weight hit me, the moment I broke down over the end of a 2-year relationship and the destruction of the life we shared. But instead, I felt weightless. Because for the first time in a very long time, Landon wasn't in control of the narrative. For the first time, I wasn't the one scrambling to fix, soothe, or rescue. The roles had reversed, and he knew it. Sunday was coming, and with it the eviction of his life. Mine was already underway. Sunday arrived with the slow, heavy inevitability of a storm you watch forming in the horizon. There is nothing you can do to stop it, only brace yourself and observe what gets swept away. By late afternoon, I parked across the street from the apartment complex. I wasn't there to intervene, confront, or even gloat. I was there to witness the ending. At 4:07 p.m., a U-Haul truck rumbled into the parking lot and wheezed to a stop in front of my building. 2 guys stepped out, both with the look of men who had been promised pizza and beer, but were now regretting every life choice that led them here. And then I saw them. Landon pacing in the breezeway, rubbing the back of his neck like he was trying to massage pride back into a spine that had long since collapsed. And Serena holding a lamp, my lamp, though I decided the universe could have that battle. Her hair was in a messy bun, her eyeliner smeared, her expression pinched and sour like the reality of dating her new beginning had lost its glossy sheen. I watched from my car as they bickered before lifting a single box, both already sweating under the late-day heat. It took them 3 hours to pack. 3 hours of heavy footsteps slamming drawers, shouted instructions, and the unmistakable sound of a relationship buckling under logistical stress. At one point, I saw Landon throw his hands up and shout something. Serena rolled her eyes so hard her entire body moved with it. Passion, he once called it. Drama that meant love. Now it just looked like two children angry at the world because consequences had finally arrived. By 7 p.m. they were gone. The U-Haul pulled away, dragging behind it the remnants of a life I no longer recognized as mine. I stepped out of my car only when the truck turned the corner. The air smelled faintly of the honeysuckle vines lining the walkway, something I'd never noticed before. Funny how peace sharpens your senses. Mr. Hollister met me in the lobby. He'd brought a clipboard, a flashlight, and the stern determination of a man morally offended by property damage. "Ready?" he asked. "Let's do it." When I unlocked the apartment door, the smell hit us like a physical blow, stale beer weed, something sour that I hoped was just spilled wine. The living room looked like the aftermath of a party no one enjoyed. Trash bags half filled, food containers, a sticky ring of something on the coffee table where Serena had apparently been too busy surviving to use a coaster. Mr. Hollister took out his phone, already snapping photos. "Carpet's shot," he muttered. "Deep cleaning at minimum." He walked further in, and that's when we saw the hole. A fist-sized crater in the drywall behind where my desk once stood. What on earth? I didn't even need to guess. I could practically hear Landon's voice from weeks earlier. "I swear to God, Brenda, if you leave me alone with my thoughts." He never handled solitude well, or accountability, or apparently drywall. We moved into the kitchen next. That's where I saw the stack of opened mail on the counter, letters addressed to me, torn open sloppily. IRS notice, insurance paperwork, a medical bill. "Opening someone else's mail is a federal crime," I said. Mr. Hollister nodded solemnly, adding a photo to his collection. Then something glinted near the sink, a small metallic glint. I stepped closer. It was the spare key to my car, the one Landon insisted he had lost 2 months earlier. Next to it sat a note written on a crumpled paper towel in thick Sharpie. "You're a small, petty woman. You'll die alone. P.S. I took the ice cube trays." "Ice cube trays," I whispered. Mr. Hollister stopped writing. "She took the ice cube trays," he repeated, bewildered. I nodded. He scribbled something on his clipboard. I'm adding that. A laugh slipped out of me, half disbelief, half catharsis. Landon had cheated, manipulated, lied, weaponized affection, and detonated our home with emotional chaos. But the final insult he wanted to deliver was stealing cheap plastic trays from Dollar Tree. The kind of villainy you couldn't make up. After recovering from the absurdity, we finished the inspection. Everything that belonged to me was packed or already removed. Everything destroyed had been documented. Mr. Hollister turned to me, serious again. "The security deposit is gone," he said. "And then some. Cleaning, carpet replacement, drywall repair. That's all coming out of the final charges. I'll cover whatever the deposit doesn't," I said quietly. "Send me the bill." "You sure?" He frowned. "You can take him to small claims for half." A slow smile formed on my lips. "Oh, I'm absolutely going to take him to small claims, but not for the money." He nodded. He understood. The following week, I filed the case. Small claims court didn't require a lawyer, just organization. I assembled a binder. Photos of damage. Lease where I was the sole tenant. Text messages acknowledging he wouldn't leave. Receipts. The police report for attempted credit card fraud. Evidence of mail tampering. And the note. The now infamous ice cube trays memo included purely for emotional flavor. The hearing took less than 10 minutes. Landon didn't show. Default judgment, $2,600 plus court costs. Collecting that money would be nearly impossible. But the judgment would stain his rental history for years. Actions had consequences, and now finally they would follow him. The fallout unfolded quickly after that. A mutual acquaintance, someone still lurking in Serena's private story, sent me screenshots. Serena had moved into Landon's shoebox studio, except the shoebox was already occupied by 3 of his roommates. The caption under her frustrated selfie read, "Some boys pretend to be men. Never date a man who needs his mom more than you." So much for her new beginning. 2 days later, I received one last call from Donna. "Brenda," she cried, "Landon is depressed. He's sleeping all day. You need to fix this. You broke him." "Donna," I said calmly, "your son broke himself. Please don't call me again." She hung up with a dramatic gasp that told me she finally realized her stage had gone dark. 3 weeks after the move-out, I settled into my new apartment. Smaller, quieter, colorless in a comforting way. The silence was thick at first, foreign, like a room without furniture, and then slowly it became warm, healing. I placed a glass of water on the coffee table one night before bed. The next morning it was still there. No one had scolded me. No one had lectured me about coaster marks. No one had accused me of sabotaging their day by leaving it out. Silence wasn't loneliness. It was luxury. And then one last message from Landon arrived 3 days ago. Landon, 9:12 p.m. I miss the dog. Can I come see him? We never had a dog. He was casting a line, searching for any thread I might grab. I blocked the number. Because the truth he never understood was simple. He told me to leave. I finally listened, and it saved my life. For most of my life, I believed closure meant a conversation, a final unraveling, a confession, a shared cry, a last embrace that softened the ending. But I learned something different in the weeks after Landon's eviction. Real closure isn't a dialogue. It isn't mutual, and it isn't warm. It arrives quietly in the shift of your own breathing, in the way your body relaxes in a room no one else controls, in the sound of silence, finally feeling like home. 3 weeks had passed since he moved out. I'd settled into my new apartment, a much smaller space with mismatched furniture and walls that echoed whenever I walked across the floor. But the quiet here felt clean, like someone had scrubbed the air itself. No raised voices, no slamming doors, no sudden critiques about the way I folded towels or loaded the dishwasher. Every corner of the apartment was mine, uncontested, uncomplicated, peaceful. The final bill from the old place came in the mail. The security deposit was wiped out, obliterated by cleaning fees, carpet replacement, and repairing the hole in the wall Landon had apparently punched during one of his private tantrums. Beyond the deposit, there was still $1,200 owed. It hurt to pay it, but the ache wasn't regret. It was the price tag on freedom, and honestly, the amount felt cheap compared to what I'd gained. I had expected the damages. What I hadn't expected was how symbolic they would feel. The dented drywall, the beer stains, the sticky residue on the kitchen counter, the pile of opened mail. Each mess was proof of who he really was, without someone there to absorb his chaos. It was the physical trail of the emotional landscape I had lived in for too long. Fragile, tense, unpredictable, always one accusation away from cracking. I filed the small claims case anyway. Not because I needed the money, I doubted I'd ever see a cent, but because the judgment would land on public record exactly where it belonged. When the judge ruled in my favor after Landon failed to show up, I didn't feel victorious. I felt settled, like the scales had been quietly but decisively recalibrated. Word traveled faster than I expected. A mutual acquaintance messaged me saying Landon had been rejected from an apartment after the landlord saw the judgment in his background check. He had moved back in with his mother. That didn't make me happy. It didn't hurt me either. It simply confirmed what I'd known. Deep down, he had built his life on my stability, not his own. Serena wasn't spared from the fallout either. Screenshots from her private story appeared in my inbox, her taking shaky videos from Landon's childhood bedroom, complaining about how cramped it was, how he refused to clean, how she felt misled about his finances. Her captions were bitter, accusing him of lying, manipulating, and acting like a boy who wanted to be treated like a man. It wasn't satisfying to watch. It was clarifying. She wasn't my rival. She was just the next person trapped in the cycle I had finally broken out of. Donna made one last attempt a few days later. She left a voicemail with that practiced trembling in her voice I'd learned to recognize. She said Landon was devastated that he wasn't eating, that he couldn't get out of bed. She said I needed to talk to him, that he needed the woman he loved to help him heal. The message was long, guilt-soaked, and entirely predictable. I deleted it and blocked her number. Their family treated women like emotional paramedics, always on call, always ready to resuscitate a man's ego. I wasn't volunteering for that job anymore. About a week later, I accidentally ran into Landon at the gym. I usually went early in the morning before the place got crowded, but that day I'd overslept. When I walked in at 5 p.m., I saw him instantly. He was standing near the free weights, spotting someone half-heartedly looking smaller somehow. Worn down, deflated edges, dulled by the reality he'd never had to face before. He saw me too. His eyes went wide, his arms froze mid-lift. A flush crept up his neck like he'd been caught in someone else's clothes. I didn't say anything. I didn't nod or wave or even frown. I walked past him, filled my water bottle, and turned toward the treadmills like he was nobody special, nobody dangerous, nobody anchored to me in any way, just another person in a room full of strangers. 5 minutes later, he grabbed his bag and left. Not a word, not a plea, not a performance, just quiet retreat. He finally understood. The script had been shredded. The dynamic had dissolved. Whatever power he thought he had melted the moment I chose myself instead of the familiar gravity he used to pull me back. 3 nights after that, at exactly 9:12 p.m., I got a text from an unfamiliar number. I miss the dog. Can I see him? We never owned a dog. Not once. Not even in our daydream conversations. He wasn't reminiscing. He was baiting, searching for a thread to pull, trying to find any angle that might open a door again. I blocked the number immediately. No anger, no emotion, just clarity. Later that night, I walked into my living room and noticed a glass of water sitting on the coffee table. I'd left it there the night before. In the old apartment, that innocent oversight would have triggered a lecture about responsibility, respect, and how my habits were signs of emotional immaturity. But here in this quiet space built from my own choices, the glass sat exactly where I left it, untouched, uncriticized, harmless. I picked it up and held it for a moment, feeling the coolness on my fingertips. It was such a small gesture, so mundane, but it struck me harder than any dramatic breakup scene ever could. This was peace. Not the absence of sound, but the absence of fear, the absence of bracing, the absence of someone else's moods determining my reality. I finally understood something I should have learned years ago. Silence isn't loneliness. Silence is space. Silence is oxygen. Silence is freedom. A freedom I hadn't realized I was suffocating without. People always ask when you know a relationship is truly over. For me, it wasn't the fight, the cheating, the eviction, or the legal battles. It wasn't the broken walls, or the stolen ice cube tray, or the desperate last-minute texts. It was the sound of nothing, nothing at all, finally feeling